And then the meal after sunrise was called break fast. So breakfast is called breakfast because it's break fast, the fast you did all night long. That's where the origin of the word comes from. Yes. So now over here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, so Zakaria alayhi salatu wassalam fasted, and before Zakaria alayhi salatu wassalam, Dawood alayhi salatu wassalam fasted. Some Dawood is what? One day fasting, one day not. The Prophet ﷺ said that is the best fasting. Some Dawood, fast one day, do iftar one day. Fast one day, do iftar one day. And before Dawood alayhi salatu wassalam, Sayyidina Musa alayhi salatu wassalam fasted. وَإِذْ وَعَدْنَا مُوسَى 40 لَيْلَةً ثُمَّ اتَّخَذْتُمُ الْعِجْلَ مِنْ بَعْدِهِ. Allah says we promised Musa alayhi salam 40 nights. And before Musa alayhi salatu wassalam, Yaqub alayhi salam fasted. And before Yaqub alayhi salatu wassalam, Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam fasted. Ibrahim alayhi salam fasted Ayyam Bid, the 13th, 14th, and 15th of every lunar calendar. 3 days a month he would fast. And before Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam, Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salatu wassalam fasted. Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salam was known Sa'imud Dahr, that for 950 years, every single day he fasted. For 950 years, he was called Sawmud Dahr, Sawm of an entire centuries, of an era, of a lifetime. And before him, Adam alayhi salatu wassalam fasted. And Adam alayhi salam also fasted in the days of Ayyam Bid, on the 13th and the 14th and the 15th. Adam alayhi salam as well. يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم. What is the purpose of fasting? لعلكم تتقون. That when you continue to fast and you continue to bring siyam in your life, then slowly taqwa will enter into your heart. For those whose hearts are hard and they want to step into getting taqwa, what does Allah say? Keep on fasting. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. You'll get taqwa. Because when a person fasts, the first thing that happens in the first few days is that the emotions and the desires, they increase in the beginning. And after a few days, then the desires and the emotions, they decrease. The Prophet ﷺ said, يَا مَعْشَرَ الشَّبَابِ مَنِ اسْتَطَاعَ مِنْكُمْ الْبَاءَةَ فَلْيَتَزَوَّجْ. Oh youngsters, whoever can get married, get married. If you can't, then فَعَلَيْكُمْ بِالصَّوْمِ. Then fast. فَإِنَّهُ أَغَضُّ لِلْبَصَرِ. By fasting, it will control your gaze. وَأَحْصَنُ لِلْفَرَجِ. It will protect your chastity. وَعَلَيْكُمْ بِالصَّوْمِ فَإِنَّهُ لَهُ وَجَاءٌ. It is a shield for you. Fasting is a shield. Why? It's because you are staying away from halal. Forget haram, you're staying away from halal. So if a person can stay away from halal, they can stay away from haram. That's the philosophy behind fasting. That forget haram, I'm not even doing halal. I can eat and drink and all this, I'm leaving halal for Allah. If I can leave halal for Allah, I can definitely leave haram for Allah, which is easy. Ayyaman ma'dudat. These are just a few days. Ayyaman ma'dudat. Few days. Now what are these few days? فَمَنْ كَانَ مِنْكُمْ مَرِيضًا أَوْ عَلَى سَفَرٍ فَعِدَّةٌ مِنْ أَيَّامٍ أُخَرٍ. Allah said, if you are sick or you are on a safar, فَعِدَّةٌ مِنْ أَيَّامٍ أُخَرٍ. Then you can fast on different days. وَعَلَى الَّذِينَ يُطِيقُونَهُ فِدْيَةُ طَعَامُ مِسْكِينٍ. This was in the beginning of Islam. The wealthy, if they couldn't fast, they just gave fidya. Now, if you don't fast, if you cannot fast, then you give fidya. فَمَنْ تَطَوَّعَ خَيْرًا فَهُوَ خَيْرٌ لَهُ. If you do a nafil fast, it is better for you, and it is more rewarding. وَأَن تَصُومُوا خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ إِن كُنتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ. And the fact that you fast, it is better for you. No, you have to make up that fast. No, fidya is only for when you cannot fast. these calls come in and then they cancel the recording. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke about Sawm. When is Sawm done? شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن. Ramadan is the month that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in their Quran was revealed. هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان. It is a guide for people and it is clarity and guidance and it is a distinguisher between what is right and what is wrong. Now Allah says شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن أي بداية القرآن, meaning the beginning of Quran was revealed in this night, on the 27th night of Laylatul Qadr. إِنَّا أَنزَلْنَاهُ فِي لَيْلَةِ الْقَدْرِ, that it was revealed in the night of power. However, it doesn't mean that the whole Quran was revealed in Ramadan. Quran was revealed throughout the whole year, not just in Ramadan. In 23 years, Quran was revealed throughout 23 years. And one thing, since we are on the topic of Laylatul Qadr, and the Quran was revealed in Laylatul Qadr, Laylatul Qadr is not the same every year. It changes. And some scholars say, which seems to be the most correct opinion as well, that Laylatul Qadr is different for every town. And every group of people, Laylatul Qadr is different. Think about it. There are some natural and climate elements that need to be part of Laylatul Qadr as well. The sun rising in a certain manner, some rain, some water. And so many times someone's like, well, by us 23 didn't have it. You know, we didn't see any rain 23. And the next guy's like, no, but 25th we saw it. And they're debating. One saying 23, one saying 25th. And then you have that one person that says, oh no, but I thought 27th was always the Laylatul Qadr. Today 27th is so important, as if it is the Laylatul Qadr. Ya Sheikh, क्या ढूंढता है शबे कदर को? या शेख, क्या ढूंढता है शबे कदर को? हर शब शबे कदर है अगर तू कदर करे. Every night can be Laylatul Qadr, but just do qadr on it. हर शब शबे कदर है अगर तू कदर करे. You just have to treat it like it. Every day read one juz Quran. Every day give some sadaqah. Every day do ibadat. And keep it consistent. Everyone can spend the whole night here on the 27th. Everyone can come in the odd nights. But you know what's different? Doing consistency. Everyone, you know when you're driving, and then you have that one, they slam it to 120 miles per hour, you can't remain on 120 miles per hour. You can't. It's just for the moment. It's a great thrill. But what happens afterwards? You have to go back on 40 and 30. But if you're not used to driving, then your car stays shut and you're Ubering it everywhere. But if you have a habit now, that this is my ma'mul, Ramadan or outside of Ramadan, I'm exactly the same. This is a perfect life. You put me in Ramadan or you put me outside of Ramadan, I do the same Quran, I do the same dhikr. In Ramadan I do slightly more, a little bit more. But our situation is, we do nothing. And Ramadan time comes, we pray and do sawm and give sadaqah and mashallah. It is as Ramadan time comes and everyone thinks, mashallah, Muslims exist. There's so much, masajid are flooding and this and that and sadaqat, and what happened the whole year? So the skill is, the trick is, how do I bring it the whole year? I make an intention from now. You know why we can't take it the whole year? Is because already in Ramadan we have different levels. Beginning of Ramadan we do a little ibadah. Middle of Ramadan we do less. Last 10 days, mashallah. 27th night, full force. Then 29th night, we go back. Eid ho rahi hai. Before Eid even, one day before Eid, we do the welcome party. فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ فَلْيَصُمْ. Whoever is in the month, meaning whoever is alive and is muqim in their town. وَمَنْ كَانَ مَرِيضًا أَوْ عَلَى سَفَرٍ فَعِدَّةٌ مِّنْ أَيَّامٍ أُخَرٍ. If you are sick or you are traveling, then other days, يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ بِكُمُ الْيُسْرَ وَلَا يُرِيدُ بِكُمُ الْعُسْرَ. Allah wants ease for you and Allah doesn't want difficulty for you. وَلِتُكْمِلُوا الْعِدَّةَ وَلِتُكَبِّرُوا اللَّهَ عَلَى مَا هَدَاكُمْ وَلَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ. And so that you may complete your numbers. What does this mean? That a person will only fast 30 days. Neither 28, neither 31 days. If you are traveling and your fast turns into 28 days, you have to make 1 day qada. And if you are in a town and you go and the fast turns into 31 days, then the first fast of yours was a nafil fast. وَلِتُكَبِّرُوا اللَّهَ عَلَى مَا هَدَاكُمْ وَلَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ. And throughout your fast, do takbir of Allah. Say Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. وَلِتُكَبِّرُوا اللَّهَ. Speak about the greatness of Allah. عَلَى مَا هَدَاكُمْ وَلَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ. And say Alhamdulillah. This teaches us that every sa'im should have two wadifas. A wadifa of Allahu Akbar and a wadifa of Alhamdulillah. At least 100 times a day read Allahu Akbar, and at least 100 times a day read Alhamdulillah. So you are speaking about the greatness of Allah, and you are doing shukr to your Allah. وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِي عَنِّي فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ. Now Allah is talking about sawm. In the middle he speaks about this ayah, and then he continues talking about sawm. What is the purpose of bringing this ayah in the middle? Why not bring this later on? Why did it come smack in the middle of the ayah to sawm? Because Allah is saying that in the middle of sawm is dua. In the middle of sawm is connecting to Allah. وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِي عَنِّي. And when my servant وَمِمَّا زَادَنِي شَرَفًا وَتِيهًا وَكِدْتُ بِأَخْمَصِي أَنْ أَتَأَ الثُّرَيَّا دُخُولِي تَحْتَ قَوْلِكَ يَا عِبَادِي وَأَنْ أَرْسَلْتَ لِي أَحْمَدَ نَبِيًّا. The Arabic poet says that out of all the things you could have called me, the best thing you can call me is Ibadullah, the servant of Allah, for my name is connected to the name of Allah. And Allah says, when my ibad, when my servants ask you about me, فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ. Tell them I'm there. When they ask you, where is Allah? Tell them I'm there. I'm not gone anywhere. All you have to do is ask. All you have to do is turn towards me. All you have to do is want me, and I'm there for you. أُجِيبُ دَعْوَةَ الدَّاعِ إِذَا دَعَانِ. I accept the du'as when they call upon me. Du'as are accepted in one of three ways. Does anyone know the three ways du'as are accepted? What are the three ways? Three ways du'as are accepted. From now till the end of Ramadan, here and there you have to help me a little bit, because there's no water for me. But if you would have left the water, I would have drank it by accident, and it's okay. Right or wrong? The food you drink by accident, that's why if you see someone eating or drinking by accident, you shouldn't even stop them. Let them complete. Unless they're going to like barbecue tonight for a buffet or something. Chota mota is okay, but if the brothers, mashallah, is going to sit there and have a whole meal, then you want to stop them. There are some things called Maulana and Mufti benefits. When you know Masail, then you know the little ins and outs. That's why someone said when an alim commits a mistake, first of all, their mistakes at times are not even mistakes, is because they know how to make a mistake that's not a mistake. And the second of all, if they know how to displease Allah, they also know how to please Allah as well. If they know how to displease Allah, if they've displeased Allah, they also know very well how to please Allah as well. Learn not to talk about other people. One thing that's an unfortunate epidemic in the Dallas community is everyone talks about everyone. No. It's an epidemic here. I've lived in 9 places in my life. And in the 9 places I've lived, I have never visited a town where do you live? I live here in this town. What street? Habibi, worry about yourself. What are you going to get out of finding out where do I live? Are you married? Why are you here if we're not married? What business of yours is this? What job do you do? What car do you... What business of yours? What car I drive? What job I do? What business is this of yours? But we just care about other people. You heard about what happened to his wife? You heard what happened to that person, that family, that home, that Maulana, that Imam? That is it. Everyone's tongues are busy. At least And you know why I make Dallas exclusive other than other places? You know why I make it exclusive? Other places people are doing riba. They are doing riba. Riba is everywhere. But at least they're doing riba and slandering normal people. In Dallas, everyone's doing riba and slandering of normal people and the ulama and the scholars. This sheikh is like that sheikh is like this imam is like that. Bhai, hum kaise hain? Everyone is in their own place. Hum kaise hain? How am I? So much time for other people. Spend that time on yourself. Focus on yourself. And learn to control this tongue. This tongue, don't talk about other people. Don't bring them in your conversation. This Ramadan, make it a habit. I'm not talking about other people. It's very interesting and at the same time heartbreaking when we start and we go to people's homes and speak and the conversation is somebody else and the discussion is someone else. At least when I was growing up, people used to say, "Maaf kijiye, main ghibat na ho jaye." Please forgive me. I don't want to do ghibat. Now over here, people don't even realize it. Ghibat's on autopilot, cruise control. It's just happening, and we don't even realize it. And everyone's involved in it. Learn to not talk about other people and make that the rule. That this iftar, tell people, look, we invite you for iftar, but one thing we want to adopt this year is we don't want to talk about anybody else that's not there in the room. You know what ghiba is? Dhikrul aib fi halatil ghaib. To say an aib of someone while they're not there. Dhikrul aib, mentioning an aib fi halatil ghaib when they're not over there. This is ghiba. And some people say, "Oh, no. I'll say this to their face. This is not a ghiba. I'll tell her this in her face that her biryani is not good." I said, "You're more begharat than the one who does ghiba." At least this one has a little bit of ghairah that doesn't go and hurt somebody in their face. You're saying you'll talk about her behind her back and in front of her? That's how begharat are you? This is nothing to be emboldened about that I'll say it. Just because you can say it to someone in their face doesn't make it not ghiba. It's still ghiba. Dhikrul aib fi halatil ghaib. The Sahaba said, "Ya Rasulullah, what if it is true?" The Prophet ﷺ said, "If it is true, it is ghiba. If it is not true, what is it?" Buhtan, slander. It is slander. Control these tongues. So du'as get accepted in 3 ways. What's the first one? How? The way you ask the dua is accepted. You ask Allah for some shan masala. You said, "Ya Allah, Ramadan time, everyone is going to go and Patel Brothers is going to be empty. Please make some shan masala and chat masala we need for our dahi bari tonight." Now that dua gets accepted. What's the second way? It saves you from an obstacle. Now you didn't know that chaat masala that you were going to make and that dahi bari that you were going to make, the dahi was going to be off and the bade were going to be chote and the whole dish was going to be messed up. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saves you from that calamity of dahi bade and He directs you towards shole. And He tells you that this is better for you. And now you see shole there, you make it, and now you don't even realize how much Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has saved you from the difficulties. What's the third way? In the akhirah, you will see your dua in a form of a mountain. And when you see that, you will say, "Ya Allah, I wish none of my dua got accepted. Ya Allah, I wish none of my dua got accepted." Because right now I realize how valuable a dua is. And Allah is the King of Kings. It's not in His sifat to not give. And if Allah doesn't give you something that you're supposed to get now, when you ask, when a child asks a parent, and the parent thinks to themselves, "How can I get it to this kid?" And if the parent says no to the kid, then they think about, "I should make it up somehow. Let me make a good dinner for them. Let me get them something else. You have this guilt inside you. You're a parent. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He doesn't give His ibad something in the dunya, He says, "In the akhirah, I'll make them happy. I'll give them so much that they'll forget about that they ever asked here." So the example is like this. Someone wants to work at a job, and now they don't get that job, and they feel hurt. But Allah has them safe for another job where they are going to have more happiness and more barakat and more blessing. I didn't say make more money, because making more doesn't mean you have more happiness at home. I said have more barakah. Don't ask Allah for more money. Ask Allah for more barakah. We see billionaires and millionaires that are struggling because of their money. Our, mashallah, Sadr, his tax returns are like Surah Fatiha of every Democrat. Right? The wealth that you have is the same adab that you're going through. How many millionaires do you know? And we look around, right? Money is so subjective, to be honest with you, right? Because our culture is so terrible. You look at a person, mashallah, they live in a $500,000 home. You see their car driving, mashallah, very nice S-Class, $150,000 car. Mashallah, ye aise waise double paise hai. But then you found out ghar bhi mortgage par. The house is on a loan as well. They're giving payments on the house. The car is also leased. And the man has a debt of 30,000, 50,000, 100,000 on him. He's got a debt of hundreds of thousands. But outside, everyone thinks, mashallah, mashallah. Oh, you know, this one walks around with a Michael Kors bag. Oh no, look at the car they got. Now, outside they look wealthy. Inside they're broken poor. And everyone outside, oh look, aise aa rahe, and everyone's taking mashallah. And aake do haathon se salam and galle aisa minna. You go out of your way to meet these people because they have money. And then you see someone next to you. They're wearing the same kurta shalwar that they get from Pakistan. Now, I don't know if that's a positive compliment or a negative compliment. Because I meet people that say, humne Pakistan se laya. We bought it from Pakistan. And I said, I got this from down the street. I don't know is this a competition in distance? That who's got it from further? I don't know. But someone who's wearing simple basic clothes. They have a small car. They live in an apartment. But in their savings they have $500,000. Who's more rich? Who's more wealthy? And then I'll tell you of a third person. They have no money. They have no car. They live in a small one-bedroom apartment, two-bedroom apartment. But in that apartment, their children and their family is with them. They eat together, they sleep together, they speak together. That's the wealthiest home. That's the richest home out of all of them. No matter how much money you earn, you can't buy a conversation with your children. You can't buy a text message from them. You can't buy love and affection from them. I'm not here to make your life difficult. I'm here to tell you you're already living a difficult life. You've tried your ways. Listen to our way, and inshallah Allah will give you happiness. Up till this moment you did your way. Up to this moment you did what you did from your capacity. And have we gotten that happiness? Have we gotten that contentment? Everyone's home is going through troubles. And understand one thing. Just because you become Allah doesn't mean you won't have difficulties in your life. Allah walon ke ghar mein bhi talaqein hoti hai. There's divorces in Allah wala's homes as well. There's death there as well. There's debt there as well. There's hunger there as well. But then there's happiness there. I have seen people, Allah wali people in my life. Did I tell you about the death of Mufti Alauddin's son? No, I never told you about my teacher's kid's death? You want to hear about Allah wali people? I'll tell you about Allah wali people. I mentioned him, right? I don't think I mentioned the story of his son. Mufti Alauddin was a teacher of ours. He taught in Makkah Mukarramah. He used to teach Bukhari in Madrasa Sawlatiyah. It's about over 100 years old, Islamic seminary. And he used to teach different kitabs there. And he was a very, he was one of our oldest ustads. My estimate is that his age is, he said him and Mufti Taqi Usmani were born in the same year. And I think Mufti Taqi Usmani was born in 1943. So by that standard, he's what? 76. Mufti Alauddin did a lot of mujahada. He told us one time that he used to study in the frontier of Pakistan. And he said they used to go to the mountains, and if one scholar was known that he taught hadith well, they traveled all the way there, sat with him for a few months, learned all hadith from him, and then went to the next one. So he mentioned to us that it used to be so cold in the place that he used to study, that when they used to go for istinja, they used to take a bucket boiling of water, boiling. They would take the boiling bucket of water, enter the restroom, and when they would go to utilize the istinja water, there would be a thin layer of ice on top. They said we would take boiling where you would see the bubbles, and then we would go inside, and within few minutes there would be a thin layer of ice on top. This is the climate that we studied in. But then, never seen them miss their salah ever. I viewed these people, I've known them for the past 11 years. Lived 5 years daily with them. Never missed the tahajjud, forget their normal salah. I can count on my hand how many times they missed a rak'at in a year. How many times they missed a rak'at. Forget about the salah. Maybe 2 times a year, 3 times a year. Everyone prayed their tahajjud. Everyone. In the institute where I studied, on Mondays and Thursdays, we had about between 800 to 1,000 students during the different times. We easily had between 15 to 20% of the students at the madrasa would fast Mondays and Thursdays. And I know so many youngsters and so many students who fasted every single day while they studied. Every single day. This knowledge is not a knowledge of just words and advice. This knowledge is amal. If this doesn't bring tahajjud in my life, it doesn't bring Quran in my life, then we're wasting our time. That is the end result. Anyway, Mufti Alauddin, his son was top of his class. The Alim program is 7 years long. And I was actually doing calculations the other day. We had class about 9 hours a day. 9 hours a day. Out of them, 6 hours and 15 minutes were material and content, and about 2 hours and 45 minutes were revision, taqrar, and going over research and stuff. But 9 hours of class that we had to adhere to. For 6 days, yeah. So 6 days a week, that's how many hours? 54, right? Multiplied by 4 weeks, which is 216, right? For about 10 months. Okay? We studied for about 2,100 hours a year. This is what we were required to do, not on our own time. How many hours do you have class in college? Every week. A guesstimate. Anyone? How many hours of class? 18? How many hours? 15 to 18? 15 to 18 hours a week. So basically, in 2 days, we did more. So basically, now put that into consideration, right? So in a bachelor's, how many months? You have eight months a year. You have class, right? Less than that, 6 months a year. Actual class, not exams. 8, right? So now 8 months. This is excluding your winter break and your spring break and all of that stuff. Excluding all that, 8 months. I think it's less. 8 months is 24 weeks. No, it's 32 weeks. So it's 30 weeks, right? It's about 30 weeks. So 18 times 30 is what? 180, 360. You're looking at what? 475? 540? So in a year they do how many hours of class? 540. So in 4 years of a bachelor's they do about 2,240 or 320, right? So basically our 1 year of studies is equivalent to your 4 years bachelor's. We studied for over 2,000 hours, 2,100 hours in 1 year of Islamic studies. Now multiply that by 7 years, that's 14,000 hours. And if you do the ifta at 2 more years to that. So this Mawlana Mufti Alauddin's son, for 7 years studied, and was top of his class. And at the end of the 7 years, on your graduation day, you read the last hadith of Bukhari. Because as the last hadith, you know how you have Khatam al-Quran? So we the last hadith of Bukhari is the Khatam, and that's, the scholars will graduate, and that's the ceremony. The teacher gives the dars, thousands of people come, they listen. And usually the student who gets first in his class is the one who does the last hadith of Bukhari. Mufti Alauddin's son was the first in his class. So he was going to read the last hadith of Bukhari. So the night before his jalsa, his mother was ironing kurta for him. And he said, Mom, I don't need this. She said, no, you have to wear something nice tomorrow. You're going to be graduating tomorrow. He said, okay. There were 3 friends of his. One friend had just finished his 60 days fast for breaking a fast in Ramadan intentionally. The second youngster, obviously when you're living in madrasa and you're living in a boarding school, you borrow things from people, you take things, people have things of yours. So he had amanat of people. So he was going with these 4 friends, they were going to deliver the amanats. They had delivered the amanat and all of his huquq he gave up. So this one, all the huquq ibad he had, he returned. The second one, his huququllah, he fulfilled. And as they were coming back, there was news that there was an accident and all 4 passed away on the spot. The day before the graduation. Now imagine, you grow an attachment to your teacher, whether Sheikh Mukhtar or Imam Yasin or Sheikh Khalil or Imam Azhar or Sheikh Arsalan, whoever your Imam is, you have an attachment to them, right? How long did you sit in front of them? A few hours? 14,000 hours is how much we sit in front of our teachers. 14,000 hours. You spend few hours with the Shaykh, less than 50 hours, and you are in love with the Shaykh, and the Shaykh is so important, and this and that, and the Shaykh has muhabbat for you. Imagine teaching someone for 7 years. And imagine the relationship of living with them for 7 years, being in dorms and things, okay? The whole school was shook. Everyone was crying. And Mufti Alauddin, I wasn't there that time. This was before my time. But I've heard this incident multiple times, and I heard it from Mufti Alauddin himself as well. Everyone was crying. His son passed away. He was in the car, his other 2 friends. One had completed his fast, and the second was returning the amanat, and they were coming back. So, because we had students from 60 countries. So a lot of them were not local. So Mufti Alauddin's family was, because he was a teacher, so his kids obviously stayed there. So local kids would help out the foreigners with cars and transportation and stuff of that sort. Right? There was people from 60 countries in our school, from Brazil, Russia, Guyana, Thailand, Japan. The most strangest places at our madrasa had no website. When I entered and I took Dakhila, there was no website. But people from around the world would come and study. This is qubuliyat from Allah. Anyway, we're going to get off topic. So people were crying, they were hurt. And now everyone thought, who's going to break the news to Mufti Alauddin? So one teacher, he said, I'll break the news. So he went and, they broke the news that your son has passed away. And he hugged him. And the man is obviously crying because he taught him for 7 years. And Mufti Alauddin, he was probably at this time 68 years old. He pushed him away. And he said, "Kyun ro rahe ho? Allah ne diya tha, Allah ne wapas le liya." He said, "Why are you shedding tears?" He said, "Wallahi, I did not cry even 1 drop for my favorite child." He said, "Not 1 drop of tear escaped my eye." He's like, on knowing the death of my child. He said, yes, the next day, in Fajr Salah, when the Salman Parker recited in the Salah, he recited, Kullu nafsin dha'iqatul maut. He said, and at that ayat is when I began to cry. He said, but I did not cry neither in the janaza, in this and that. Next day, graduation, they called the father up, they put the turban, imama, everything on him, they gave him head. Fast forward. few years later. We were studying Tirmidhi, and I was reading hadith. I used to read hadith in the class was because I was a fast reader. Most of the hadith I read myself. Most of Ibn Majah I read. Half of Sahih Muslim I read. Beginning of Sahih Muslim, a lot of it I read. A lot of Sahih Bukhari I read. A lot of Tirmidhi I read. Abu Dawud I didn't read any hadith the teacher used to read. Anyway, we were reading Tirmidhi, and it was the hadith of Ifk. The hadith when Aisha radiallahu anha was accused. And I remember I was reading, and I could hear some shaking and some noise. So I stopped, and naturally when I stopped, all the students looked at me as why I stopped. And I looked up, and now they looked in the direction where I was looking. And Mufti Alauddin was sitting, teaching the hadith, and he was shaking and crying. He was shaking and crying on the story of how could they accuse Aisha radiallahu anha. The same man who did not drop a tear on his son's death. And I remember he said, Paro, khatam karo. Finish the hadith. And I finished the hadith, he closed the book and he walked out. He was crying so much, he could not give dust that day. When you are connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, your kayfiyat is different. Your qalb is different. Even the biggest loss in your life, you don't feel it as a loss. Can you imagine losing your son? Neither the mother changed, neither the father changed. Same house they lived in. They didn't say, we need to change the house, we need to change the madrasa, we need to change the environment. None of that stuff. Exactly how they were. Because they had Allah in their heart. When we have heartaches and Allah is not in our heart, what happens? I need to change this scenery, I need to look away. Because we adopted something else as our love and our affection and our connection. But when we become Allah, then it doesn't matter. This was only just a page, or this was only something Allah gave us, and Allah took it away. It's okay. We'll get it back in the akhirah. It's fine. We're not worried. The akhirah is ours. Anyway. فَلْيَسْتَجِيبُوا لِي وَلْيُؤْمِنُوا بِي لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْشُدُونَ. Then seek and ask of me, and have faith in me so that you are guided. أُحِلَّ لَكُمْ لَيْلَةَ الصِّيَامِ الرَّفَثُ إِلَى نِسَائِكُمْ هن لباس لكم وأنتم لباس لهن علم الله أنكم كنتم تختانون أنفسكم. Allah says that at the night of fasting, رَفَثُ إِلَى نِسَائِكُمْ, you can establish relationships with your spouses. هن لباس لكم وأنتم لباس لهن. They are your clothes. What does that mean? They are the closest thing to you. Your shirt covers you, it touches you first. And then everyone else sees the outside part. The Prophet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, your spouses are the closest to you. And they are your covering. They're supposed to hide your faults, not tell your faults. When a bunch of husbands get together and a bunch of wives get together, what do they talk about? Each other's spouses. My husband is like this. There's a hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam where 12 women, 11 or 12 women, they talk about their husbands. And sometime, inshallah, if we have time, I'll go over that hadith. And the Prophet narrates the story. He says that as a story to Aisha radiallahu anha. He says, has anyone heard this hadith before? Oh, you should know this hadith. The 11 women who complain about their husbands. It's a remarkable hadith. The hadith is in Bukhari. Anyway. But you should abstain. There's two things that people do that are unacceptable. Number one is they discuss about their home faults, which are not oppression. If there's oppression happening in your home, like abuse and things of that sort, then this is not something that you're supposed to protect, but rather get the appropriate help that you're supposed to get. I'm talking about like, Mera Shor, he doesn't spend money much on me, he doesn't buy me this, he doesn't do this, or my mother-in-law is like this, that. Those type of complaints I'm talking about. I'm not talking about abuse, because abuse is unacceptable. And the second thing is, the intimacy between the spouses, it is haram to mention any remnants of that to anybody else. The Prophet ﷺ said that person who speaks about their intimate relations with other people the Prophet ﷺ condemned them very strongly. And number three, one very big problem that we have is guys do it and girls do it as well. Wife comes back, do you know Khadija? Who's Khadija? The one with the really thin nose and the one who really looks... And then you sit there describing her from A to Z. Or the husband will go, did you see Fatima at this age, at this time? Why are you praising another man's wife? Why are you praising another woman in front of your husband? Or why are you praising another woman or another man in front of your wife? Especially physically. Especially describing them. It is haram, it is not permissible, because you are inviting temptation. You're inviting the possibility of a mistake. Don't talk about how she looked or how did she look. It's none of your business. You don't have to describe these things. You don't have to talk about it, and it becomes a culture. Anyway. علم الله أنكم كنتم تختانون أنفسكم فتاب عليكم وعفى عنكم. There was a rule in the beginning of Islam that your fast begins once you go to sleep. So once you fall asleep, then your fast begins. And when you're fasting, you can't have food, drink, or intimate relations. One time, a Sahabi came, and he was really, really tired from his work, from his day-long work, came home before Maghrib, and for a second, his eyes closed, and he was like, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Now I have to fast 2 days consecutively. We already don't have food, and now I have to fast 2 days. In another tafsir, it comes that Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu, he fell asleep. And then he asked his wife, he said, are you awake? And she said, I'm sleeping. Because she knew that his fast began. But obviously, it was an accident for him. And now, in that moment, he did not have that control. So he made a mistake, and obviously he nullified his fast. And because of that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, عَلِمَ اللَّهُ أَنَّكُمْ كُنْتُمْ تَخْتَانُونَ أَنفُسَكُمْ. Allah knows that you used to make mistakes, and you used to have these betrayals. Betrayal over here, khiyana over here is not a real betrayal, but in the sense that you made mistakes. فَتَابَ عَلَيْكُمْ وَعَفَى عَنْكُمْ. Allah forgives you and Allah excuses you. Remember I told you Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu had 26 times that the Quran agreed with him? This is one of the 26 times. فَالْآنَ بَاشِرُوهُنَّ وَابْتَغُوا مَا كَتَبَ اللَّهُ لَكُمْ. And right now, establish relationships with them and seek what Allah has prescribed for you. وَكُلُوا وَاشْرَبُوا حَتَّى يَتَبَيَّنَ لَكُمُ الْخَيْطُ الْأَبْيَضُ مِنَ الْخَيْطِ الْأَسْوَدِ مِنَ الْفَجْرِ. And eat and drink until you can see خَيْطُ الْأَبْيَض مِنَ الْخَيْطِ الْأَبْيَض is between the difference between subha sadiq and subha kadhib. That when you can see the light protruding in its appropriate manner. It doesn't mean a white thread and a black thread. One of the Sahaba read this ayah and he thought it meant you can eat and drink until you can tell the difference between the two colors. So he put a white thread and a black thread underneath his pillow. And all night long he would pull out the two threads and he would look at them. Can I see the difference? Can I not see the difference? Next day he came to the Prophet ﷺ and he said, Ya Rasulullah, this is what I did. The Prophet ﷺ said, you have a really big neck. He said, what do you mean? He said, this thread is supposed to be on the horizon. And you put what's supposed to be on the horizon on your neck. So you must have a really big neck. You put what's supposed to be in the heavens on your neck. So in the beginning what they did was that once they fell asleep, then their roza began. Their sawm began. That's what you're asking, right? Yeah. So once their sawm begins once they fall asleep. Now we have it easy. That the whole night, you don't have to, you don't fast the whole night. It's not about falling asleep the first time you fall asleep or not. We have nothing like that. ثم أتموا الصيام إلى الليل ولا تباشروهن وأنتم عاكفون في المساجد. And fulfill and finish your fast at night time, till the night. وَلَا تُبَاشِرُوهُنَّ. And don't establish relationships. وَأَنْتُمْ عَاكِفُونَ فِي الْمَسَاجِدِ. While you are doing i'tikaf or you are in the masjid. تِلْكَ حُدُودُ اللَّهِ فَلَا تَقْرَبُوهَا. These are the boundaries of Allah, and don't go near them. كَذَلِكَ يُبَيِّنُ اللَّهُ آيَاتِهِ لِلنَّاسِ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَّقُونَ. And this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala explains and expounds His ayat for the people so that they may have aql and they may learn and they may understand. We did a good amount today, didn't we? We did more today than we did any other day, right? Today's the most we've done. Inshallah. So tomorrow on we'll be doing half Hajjs, inshallah. Any questions? Yes. Any questions from the sister side? Brothers, going once? Yes. Yes. It's used one time in the Quran. Ramadan itself means to burn. And one of the reasons Ramadan is called Ramadan is because at that time it was in the summertime. It was hot. Or because it burns your sins away. So the first interpretation was that when you establish a death penalty from a accountability perspective, that's why I believe there are studies done that those states that have the death penalty, and I believe Texas still has a death penalty, right? Those states that have a death penalty in it, there's far less possibility of a murder there because of the accountability. So that's one interpretation. The second interpretation, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَكُمْ فِي الْقِصَاصِ حَيَاةٌ يَا أُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ. In fana, there is baqa. So in death, there is life. That's what qisas is, right? Over here, qisas is referring to death. In death, there is life. So how can there be life in death? So one of the mufassirin in a very different approach says, in fana, there is baqa, which means making yourself fana. And eliminating yourself in front of Allah, there is baqa, which means in the hereafter you will have everlasting immortality in Jannah and you will be in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's bliss. If you are able to erase all of your desires and become His, then everything becomes yours and you will be content. But if the same way, qisas, but what do you have to kill? You have to kill your nafs, you have to kill your desire. As the poet says, I think this is Jigar Muradabadi's poem. He says, इलाही कोई तुझसे कुछ मांगता है कोई तुझसे कुछ मांगता है मैं बस हूँ तलबगार तेरा इलाही कोई तुझसे कुछ मांगता है कोई तुझसे कुछ मांगता है बस मैं हूँ तलबगार तेरा. No, this wasn't the poem. The poem was हर तमन्ना दिल से रुखसत हो गई हर तमन्ना दिल से रुखसत हो गई अब तो आजा अब तो खलवत हो गई. The poet says that every tamanna and every desire and every wish and every hope has left my heart. Ab to aja, my Allah, there's nothing left. I had shown love to my spouse, that betrayal came. Showed love to family, that betrayal came. I showed love to friendship, that betrayal came. Showed love to children, that betrayal came. I've realized that the more I expect from mankind, the more they let me down, oh my Allah. So Allah, now I don't have expectations from anyone. I only expect from you. Ab to aja, ab to khalwat ho gaye. Now it's just you and I. Everyone else has hurt me in a way and exited my heart. Everyone will give you pain. And it's okay. Ignore it. Humans are by nature, they will give a level of disappointment, and it's okay. Don't hold so much expectation, neither in your children, neither in your family, neither in your friends, neither in your work. Expect only from Allah. Tawakkul comes from the Arabic word of relying, because you rely on something that gives you support. Only true support is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Jazakallah khair. Inshallah we will continue tomorrow. But before we leave, from this weekend onwards, on Saturday, Sunday, the dars will be after Dhuhr Salah. On Saturday, Sunday. Same place, but after Dhuhr Salah, inshallah. Start from this coming up one. Next one. So, Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Allah